What's up, everybody? We are going to be doing some procedures today. We are at KPVU, which is Provo, Utah, and the procedures that we're going to be doing are the departure procedure, the Rnav, which is GPS, the VOR DME using VORs, and the ILS. I'll go ahead and show you what those look like real quick. So this one's the departure procedure, and I'll go through each one of these as we go through the flight. This is the procedure that you're going to use to get out of Provo, but all of the approaches also start here at the Fairfield VOR. So we're just going to be doing the departure procedure and going straight into an approach, going missed, going straight into the next approach, going missed, going straight into the next approach. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing. All right, let's go ahead and get everything set up on the G1000. So I like to make sure that everything is plugged in. We're going to go over here to flight plan, and honestly, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is not my favorite for doing procedures, so this may work, it may not. I'll let you know. There have been some issues with how the G1000 works. It's not very accurate sometimes, at least to what I'm familiar with. So we'll go over here to select departure. We clicked on procedures first. Gonna go select departure. So this is one of the issues. It doesn't pop up here. I'm going to go ahead and see if we need direct to KPVU first. Okay. Ugh. And if this doesn't work, then I'll just do everything manually, which is totally fine. It's just nice to have it in the autopilot just in case. KPV and U. There we go. Enter. Activate. Now let's see if it lets us do a departure. Runway 13. Nope. Okay. Not gonna let us do that. That's okay. But we can check to see if maybe it'll let us do an arrival. An approach, I should say. Not an arrival. VOR DME. So we're going to be doing the first one on the list is going to be the Rnav. So we can get that prepped right now. It does have KPVU right here. And we're going to come over and change to the Rnav 13. There we go. Enter. All right, and we're going to be entering at the zigzag. I'll show you what that looks like. So you can see right here, zigzag. It says IAF, and that's the initial approach fix. So we're going to fly out here to Fairfield, and then our initial approach fix is going to be that one there. So we're going to want to change over to zigzag for our transition. Oh, nope. Enter. Oh my goodness. I'm not a fan of how the top bottom is set up for this. It makes it very difficult, in my opinion. Zugsag, you can see it down there. That's our initial approach fix. Enter. And we're just going to load this. We're not going to... Actually, we can activate it right now. That is totally fine. So, click in. Click in. Hello. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. That's why. And we'll activate it. So we can see now, we go over to the side, it is going to here we are, we're going to be at Zugsag, and then we're going to come into die-cut and all the way in. And you can see that's what it has here on the approach plate as well. So Zugsag to die-cut to wave it, and then down to runway 13. Here we have Zugsag, die-cut, wave it, runway 13. So you kind of want to check and make sure that those are all correct. So it is correct and we are set. Now that is our first approach that we're going to be doing, but actually we also want to do the departure. So let me show you what the departure looks like and we'll set that up and then we'll take off and get going. There is a bit more to do when you're doing a actual instrument procedures. And as I explain, it might take a little bit longer than usual. But here we are. The first thing that we're going to do, we're right here on runway 13, we're going to take off. We're going to come out this way. And on PVU, which is a VOR, we are going to go outbound 230. So we're going to have the radial 230 in there, and we're going to go to 11 DME. DME is distance measuring equipment, and we'll show you that later. Once we hit Caleb, which is 11 DME, we're going to make a right-hand turn, and we're going to get onto this radial 160. So we're actually going to be going inbound 340. And I'll show you what that looks like. And it's going to be 340 from Fairfield. So we're going to have to change from 108.4 over to 116.6 once we hit Caleb. So let's get those things all set up. We're looking at our nav right now. And we want to change it over to 108.4 and 116.6. So I'll actually zoom in here so you guys can see really well. There we are. Up. One 116.6, that's the Fairfield. So let's go ahead and change that in. And then we're going to click in, which brings it down. And the white area is what is changing. We're going to change this to Provo, which is 108.4. So here we go, 108.4. Move that over. So, and you can see here it says PVU and FFU. That means that we are all set because right here we have PVU and we have FFU, and that lets us know that it's picking it up. It sees Fairfield and PVU. So if it doesn't have anything here, then you might not have it tuned in correctly, or maybe you're too far away for it to register. Okay, so we are set there. Now the first one that we need is Provo. We're going to go outbound 230. So let's zoom back out a little bit. And how we change that out is we do this CDI button. Right now it's on GPS. The magenta is GPS. Change it over. That's VOR 1, which would be Fairfield. nav1, VOR1. VOR2, that's going to be PVU there. And we can see the course is 000. We need it to be 230. So we're going to come over here and we're going to adjust that to 230. I do need to change some buttons up because this scrolling, probably my biggest pet peeve on here. Almost there. Two, 3, 0. There we are. Actually, I want to double check. It does stay there. So now let's go ahead and set this one. It's at 00. We need it to be 340. So let's change that as well. Lots of things to set up. 340. And that is our VOR1, which is Fairfield. Okay, we're all set. So let me just run through this with you one more time real quick. VOR2, that's Provo. If we come over here and look at the plate, we are following the 230 out. And as you can see on this course, it says 230. That's the radial we're going to be following out. And then once we get to 11 DME, we're going inbound 340 to Fairfield, which is 116.6. So change this over to VOR1, which is Fairfield, 116.6. And we have the course of 340 right there. So we are all set up for the departure procedure, and we're actually set up for the approach as well. So we can just hit this, and then the magenta line will come in, and we will be good for the approach, for the Rnav approach, which is GPS. Okay, let's get this thing on the road. And I'm going to be flying this majority with the G1000, not looking outside, because that's usually how instrument procedures go. All right, make sure the parking brake is up. Parking brake is up, perfect. And let's get going. And the first thing we'll need is Provo 230, so I changed it over. I'm not too sure what this Cessna's rotation speed is, but I'm going to assume it's like 65-ish, something like that. 65 or 70. Oh. Trying a new stick. I don't know if it's what I love, but that's okay. All right, so now that we're in the air, I'm going to zoom in here, and we're just going to be looking at the instrument from now on, because that's how these go. We're going to go until we hit 260 from Provo, or 230, forgive me. So this line will come in. There we are. We just passed it rather drastically. We'll go to the end of the runway and then meet up with it. All right, start our turn. You want to do a standard rate, which is right here. That magenta line goes to the second mark. Bringing the flaps up. And now I like to get this magenta diamond or the triangle about lined up with the line. That's usually a pretty good intercept. That way you're not going in and out, because sometimes this line will go back and forth, back and forth. You want it to be semi-smooth. So we're gonna hit it like this. Keep about this area and wait for it to come in. While we're waiting, I'm gonna hit this PFD, and we do need the DME on here. Probably should have set that up a little bit earlier. Bearing 1, that's Fairfield. Bearing 2, that's Fairfield as well. Hit again, PVU. So now it's telling us we are 1.8 from the Provo VOR, PVU VOR. And see, we're gonna follow this in. This triangle lined up with this line, and it should do fairly well to just intercept almost perfectly. All right, beautiful. And we're 2.5 out. And we need to be 11 DME. I'll change over to the plates. As you can see here, it's 11 DME from Provo. Up. If I click to another screen, my controls stop working. But you can see we were pretty trimmed out, because even though I wasn't doing any inputs, it kept on going on the correct course fairly well. We were in a bit of a bank, so we went a little drastically in. We want this line to be lined up with these two, so I'm going to turn out just a little bit, let it come in. And actually we do need to be up to 9,000 feet. So I'll change our altitude. Oh. All right, there we are at 9,000. I'm going to turn the autopilot on and let it do its thing so we can talk a bit. And I'm not doing any of the radios. Okay, so we want to have it on flight director. Brings up the magenta arrow. And we are on roll and pitch, so let's change it over to nav. So it's on the VOR. And then we want it to be on flight level change. 61 knots. We'll do like a 75 knot. I'm gonna hit autopilot. Ooh, that was rather drastic. Now it's gonna pitch for 75 and follow this VOR. We'll keep an eye out for 11 DME. Autopilot is engaged. I don't have any hands on the controls. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the plates. Here we are. This is the obstacle. We are on the 230 outbound right now. We are 6 nautical miles out, so we're about right here. Once we hit the 11, we're going to turn in 340 inbound to Fairfield. And we're going to cross over the Fairfield. Once we cross over the Fairfield, we're going to go straight into our Rnav Approach, which is GPS. You can see up here, Rnav GPS for runway 13. So here's Fairfield. We'll turn out towards Zugzwang and then fly inbound from there. As you can see at Zugzwang, you're going to want to come down to 8,000. So these are the altitudes that you have. 8,000, 6,003, 4,590. And this is the final approach fix. So after that, we're going to go inbound until we hit one of these, which I think we should have LPV. we can go down to the decision altitude of 4697. And if we don't see the runway by that time, or any of the identifiers, which we will, but we're going to pretend we don't, then we have to go to a missed approach. And on a missed approach, we're going to fly straight all the way up to 9,000. Then we're going to fly to Hantsu, which is right here. And then we're going to track 206 to Suno. And then over to Medkey, which is right over here, and then Fairfield. So pretty much all the way around and all the way around to Fairfield. These are the fixes, and these are what you're going to track over there. Okay. So since our beginning altitude is going to be 8,000, once we get past Fairfield, I'll go ahead and bring our altitude down to 8,000. All right, here we are, 9.6 nautical miles out from PVU, and the departure says we need to be 11 DME, so we are getting there. Take a look outside, look around. So that's Fairfield over there off to our right. And here we have Utah Lake. And out in the distance will be Nephi down that way. Okay, we're getting pretty close to where we need to be, 10.5. So let's go ahead and change over right now. Oh, crap. Back, CDI. There we are, and we are now turning to get on to 340. So as you can see, if you set up beforehand, things just run very smoothly. If you don't, then you can be struggling and you can be what's called behind the airplane. And you know, I think we are on live weather. So I think we're actually have the incorrect baro. So let's go ahead and change that. What do we have on here? I'm gonna look and see if it told us right off the bat. Tune the ATIS. Why isn't it working? 135, 175. I'll just do it manually. There we go. Boom.
Kilo Papa Victor Uniform Airport Information Sierra 2000 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility 10. Sky condition. Few clouds at 800 feet. Few clouds at 4,400 feet. Few clouds at 12,100 feet. Temperature tree. Dew point 10. Altimeter tree 0.40. ILS runway 1 tree in use. Landing and departing runway 1 tree. VFR aircraft say direction of flight.
Very far off. 3040.
Advise controller on initial contact you have Sierra.
3040. Okay, so autopilot is correcting for that right now. important to have the correct altimeter setting. Okay, so let's go ahead and check up on where we're at. So currently we are on the 340 inbound to Fairfield. Basically, once the flag flips, currently it should show 2. Once it goes to from, then we'll go ahead and change over to the GPS. I'll show you what that looks like. So right now, the VOR is showing us when the arrow is pointing this way with the arrow here as well, then we are traveling to. When the arrow flips over that way, then we're traveling from. And basically what the flag flip says is that we crossed over the Fairfield VOR. Man, having a hard time speaking today. So we're watching for that, and as you can see, Fairfield is coming up 1.9 nautical miles. We can also check and see when it goes to 0 and then starts counting back up. But the flag flip is really what you should be looking for. That's kind of the tell-all, because sometimes you won't have distance measuring equipment, which is this right here. And from here, I'm going to switch over to GPS. If it doesn't work, then I'm going to take autopilot off and just manually fly. It's kind of off to the left if you look. So we're... Which one are we? I think it's this one's us. All right, watch this flag flip. It's coming up, 0.4. Watch this to go over. 3, 2, 1. So there's nothing. Okay, it flipped. Let's go over to GPS. Yeah, it's not going to do it for us. Take autopilot off. So it's going to want us to go outbound that way. So we'll do that. That's not exactly how it should be, though. I'm just going to fly direct to Zuxig. Let's see if we can do that via our flight plan. KPVU. Yeah, this autopilot isn't doing exactly how I want it. It's telling us go direct to. Procedure. Approach. Rnav. Load. There we go. Now it's loaded. Ooh. I must be overloading Flight Simulator. But it's not doing what I want it to, so... Oh my goodness. Now it's making us go drastically up. These are the types of things with Flight Simulator that make me rather frustrated. Alright, so I'm just going to watch this airplane come over here up to Zuxig. And then hopefully it'll register that we are not following this outbound. Because that's not a part of the procedure. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. Okay. We actually need to lose some altitude as well. Going too fast. When we transition back in from the pause menu, it really messed things up. So right now what I'm watching is this airplane over here come to the magenta line, and we're trying to get down to 8,000 feet now, because that is our first point. I'll show you what I mean over here. 8,000 feet right here, and that's at Zugzwig. Okay, so we are dropping down, coming into this magenta line. We are about to follow that magenta line in. Let's see if I can figure out how to get direct to Zugzwig. Enter. I want to click direct to, but last time it registered direct to KPVU, which was not what we wanted. Hopefully once we hit Zugzwig, it'll just realize, hey, we're past. All right, 8,000 feet. Don't want to get too far up there. You want to stay as close to 8,000 as you can. Trimming it out correctly. So one thing to watch for is where the arrow is pointing. It's a good way to find out exactly where the aircraft is doing the altitude you want, or I should say the feet per minute that you want. So if you want it to be on 0, it looks like right now 0 is about just above the line, and we want to stay at 0. So I'm trimming so that the arrow stays right there without me having to touch any of the input. And then you leave the trim alone and you adjust for yourself. Okay, we're coming close to Zugzwig. Crossing my fingers that once we hit it, turns magenta on the next phase of flight. Because we're going from user to Zugzwig, which this whole arc thing, that's not how it should be. Don't get too low there. Alright, we've passed Zuxig. Let's try to re-put in the approach. Flight simulator, come on, buddy. That's not how it goes. So the next one on our list is Dicot. I'm gonna try to go over that way. Direct to Dicot. Provo, no. I don't want you to go direct to Provo. I may just have to let it do its thing, which is unfortunate. I'm just gonna let it do its thing. Alright, so let's turn nav on, GPS, 9,000, we want to be at 8,000. Alright, autopilot. Sorry for the long way around, but if we want to do what, if we want to do the approach, then I guess we'll just have to do Flight Simulator's version of the approach, which is not accurate. So now we're gonna hit this line and come all the way out over here. Let me show you what the actual approach is. So the initial approach fix is Zuxig. We were at Fairfield. For some reason it wants us to come way out here and then in. As you can see, there's nothing on here that tells us that we need to do that. Basically, you get to the initial approach fix and you're good. You go just direct to it. But with the Microsoft Flight Simulator, they want us to come out here and then around. If they wanted us to do that, it would show here. Maybe on a arrival, it does something like that. And so it's including something that's not necessary. But soon enough, we'll be at Zuxig. Sorry for the long wait there. All right, now we're back here. Let's take a look outside, because we are on autopilot, letting it do its thing. So Zuxig is going to be somewhere out here. We're going to come inbound, and then we're going to be following down to KPVU, which is tucked away just behind Fairfield, right about here on the other side of the mountain. And let's look at the plate, talk about that a little bit. So here we are at the initial approach fix Zuxig, go down to 8,000 by the time we hit Dicot, which is the IF, that's the intermediate fix. Nothing too crazy happens there. And we turn inbound for the final approach fix, going down to 6,300, which is wave it. That's the final approach fix. And then we'll go on down from there. And you can see here the profile view, Dicot, which is right here. Dicot, you need to be at or above 8,000. Underneath, the line underneath means at or above. If it was a line above, then it would be at or below 8,000. And sometimes it's right in the middle, so you have to be at 8,000 period. And then we can tell here this is the final approach fix. The Maltese cross lets us know that. Or if we do have vertical guidance, then it's this arrow. Sometimes they're not on the same location. As you can see here, Wave It is both for vertical guided and for non-vertical. And then you come on down to the VDP, which is the visual descent point. So if you're coming along right here and you see the airport, you don't land, you don't proceed to land until you hit the VDP. Because a lot of times we're doing step downs. It's not directly down like this. If we're not doing vertically guided, we come down low and we hit our altitude and then we come over. So 6,300 is where we're going to be. So we'd just come down and then we'd follow this along. So if we were like right here and we saw the airport and tried to come in, it wouldn't be a very good angle of attack. So you want to come up here to the VDP, 6,300, and then you go down. And we'd know that because we'd be 1.6 nautical miles out from the runway. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, but if we're here at the VDP, you keep on flying if you're not doing vertical at 6,003 until you see it. At runway 13, then you do the missed approach. So if you don't see it at all, you come all the way out to here and then do the missed approach. But say you're right here and you see the airport, you can descend down to the airport. It is one of the requirements is that you can make a safe descent. So that's kind of something that you have to decide. If you're just before runway 13 and at 6,300, maybe you think you can't hit it because you do have to descend a whole 1,000 some odd, 2,000 feet. With these runways, a Cessna might be able to do that, but you might have to go missed approach. Okay, let's check on how the flight sim is doing. Still going along. Man, they're really making us come way out here. Soon enough, we'll be turning over. So a lot of times you do the departure procedure and then you fly along to another destination and then put in the approach. So in that case, you'd have the approach set out way beforehand. But in this case, we're just going to Fairfield and going from there. We're already at 8,000 feet, so we are looking good. Oh, what is this? Got a little cloud there. Alright, now we're following this arc all the way in. Crossing my fingers we don't have any more issues. But the fact that it is not magenta anymore is kind of making me worried. Guess we're still following a course. So what are some things that you can do while you're in flight? You want to be thinking about what's happening up next, so you can brief the next couple points that you're going to be at. Once we hit Zugzwang, we're going to get to 8,000. Luckily, we're already there. We're going to fly out to Dicot, and from Dicot, we're going to go to Wave It and go down to 6,300. And once we're out here, we're also going to see if we can get vertically guided. LPV and LNAV VNAV are vertically guided. So we'll check on our CDI to see if we have that. That's something that I'll show you later. Currently, you have to be on the track for it to show up. And actually, it shows something right now, so I'll just kind of explain that. On this side, this will tell us whether we can do LPV, LNAV, VNAV, or anything else like LNAV, which would be not vertically guided. Right now it's in the en route. ENR stands for en route. Other things that you could be doing at this time is getting things set up for the approach. So any checklists that you have. I don't have a checklist for the Cessna. I'll have to look one up, but some of the things that you'd be checking are, for instance, lights, that those are correct, making sure that your circuit breakers are good, none of them have popped out for any reason, making sure that your seat belts are on, making sure your passenger seat belts are on, making sure that you have the ATIS, the weather information, and things of that sort. But since we are letting our co-pilot do HEC, we're not going to have to worry about that. That's something that I will bring up a little bit later, though, on a different video, how you manage communications as well. As you can see, we actually do have the glide slope already set up, so it looks like we'll probably get it. That's the vertical guidance, the LNAV, VNAV, or the LPV. You can also check on the engine, make sure everything's going good there. Left and right tank, got plenty of gas. EGT, oil temperature, we're all in the green. Beautiful. Oh. So we are 1 nautical mile out. This is something that you could keep your eye on as well. It tells you where we're going. So user point to the Zuxig, and Zuxig is the initial approach fix, which I've mentioned several times. And we are 0.6 nautical miles out. And this is the bearing too. Then you can see we're on GPS, autopilot, and we're holding 8,000. And this lower section is not the GPS, this is the autopilot. So we are on GPS and for the lateral navigation, and for vertical navigation we are holding 8,000. $1.3. Why did it jump up like that? It's interesting. All right, we're getting close. 0.9 nautical miles. You can see right there, there's Zuxig. And go over to the plate. You can see here is Zuxig. All the way on in. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be checking out the chat. I'm not a flight instructor by any means, but I am currently in instrument, so I might have the answer. If not, I can get back to you. $1.4. I feel like this keeps on jumping up. We are still on course though. Microsoft Flight Simulator's G1000 and just the approaches and things, I don't know. I'm not super impressed with it. There's a lot of things I'm like, am I messing up or is it the software? It does get the job done though. It's better than nothing. All right, there we go. We transferred over. So now we're past Zuxig going to Dicot. So always being a step ahead, we're going to check. Yep, we're going over to Dicot. Let's go ahead and check our plates. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I still had you over on the plates. As you can see here, we have passed Zuxig, and we are now on our way to Dicot. This is our distance. Look over this way, Zuxig there, Dicot there, this is us. So now let's go back to our plates. And we need to be at 8,000 going to die-cot. And then from there, we're going to go down to 6,300 to wave it. And we can check the profile view. Die-cot 8,000, 6,300 to wave it. That's what we're going to need. And we're going to try to get vertical guidance, so we won't be doing step downs, but we'll actually be following this black line in pretty much. That's the glide slope. At least it represents the glide slope. And that's something on the autopilot video that I have out. I didn't talk about approach mode or back course. So we'll be going over the approach mode, not the back course. Maybe another time I'll talk about the back course though. And you can also check here on your flight plan. We are on Zuxig going down to die-cot. 6.3 miles out. Let's take a look outside. Salt Lake City right up this way. I think that's the Salt Lake Airport right about there. Not too sure. Maybe it's actually those lights. Right on the south end of the Great Salt Lake though. Beautiful mountains. Great day to fly. And I just noticed, why did we go down, I wonder? Might just be the weather. But while you are flying along, it's important to keep on checking things. Sometimes the autopilot will go into different modes, and it's up to you to make sure that it does what you want it to, because it'll fly you right into a mountain if you let it. But we are on GPS at 8,000. Looks like it's recovering back to 8,000 on its way to die-cot. So visual scan, you want to keep on doing that even when you are in autopilot, because something can go wrong, and ultimately you're in charge of making sure it doesn't. All right, 3.8 miles. We are on our way. Any of you guys currently watching, have you guys done any approaches? Are there any that you would like to see? Let me know. I would like to keep on doing videos, live videos like this of different approaches. It's good practice for me, and I think a lot of people would like to see their own home airport. And in different aircrafts as well. I'm familiar with the G1000. I do need to start using steam gauges and things like that to make sure that my proficiency is up there with those as well as the G1000. The G1000 really pampers you. It does basically everything you want as long as you know how to program it. So the airport is right there. That is where we are heading to. We're getting pretty close to die-cot, as you can see, 1.4 nautical miles out. And you can see right here, die-cot. So we'll be turning soon, and we need to go down to 6,300. As you can see right here, die-cot down to wave it, 6,300. That is our next step. And once we hit here, things are going to get a little bit faster, and we're going to be doing more things like preparing. All right, here we are. We're on our way in. Doesn't look like we caught the glide slope, though. Still says we're en route. So I'm going to go ahead and change our autopilot mode. Change it down to 6,300. We'll double check that on the plate. 6,300 is our next. Perfect. Die cut down to wave it. I'm going to slow us down so that we can start descending. We're going to do a vertical speed. So here we are, 0 feet per minute, nose down. I'm going to do about 600 feet per minute. We'll see how that treats us. And we've got 6 miles out. I'm going to slow us down even more, because it is bad to hit your point and not be down to 6,300. That's where things can start getting a little iffy. And you can see we're still in en route mode. Let me see if I can change to approach mode in it. Alright, so it has it set. See how it says the GS there? If we do hit the glide slope, it'll activate the glide slope and take off the 600 feet per minute. But currently we don't have glide slope, so we can't be using LPV or LNAV VNAV. And I'll show you here. These are the minimums, LPV, LNAV, VNAV, which gets you down to 4,006 or 4,009. Right now we're only on LNAV, which would be 5,040 to be exact. And still only in en route mode. Let me zoom in here for you. You might not be able to see that very clear. The en route, so this will say LPV or LNAV VNAV, something to that extent. Since it says en route, we are not good with the glide slope. And our glide slope, this little magenta piece would be coming up. All right, we're 3.9 miles out at 7,000. I think 600 feet per minute will do it. We'll get down to 6,300 before we get to wave it. Let's look at our plate, double check. So here we are, die cut to wave it, 6,300. At or above 6,300. Double check here, die cut to wave it. Yep. We are doing things correct. So once we hit 6,300, it's going to start pitching up, and we have the throttle pulled out quite a bit, as you can see. That's something you want to be aware of. It can make you stall out. Oh look, the glide slope is coming in. Maybe we'll catch it. This is still saying en route though. That's interesting. I feel like it should have changed by now. Maybe not though. All right. Now that we're at half, we can put in one thing of flaps. And once we get to the glide slope exactly, then we'll be at increase throttle a bit. You know, even though we do have this glide slope, it's not telling us that we have LPV, so maybe we're not able to do this. And it's not picking up the LPV either. But at 1 mile out, you do get to landing configuration. So we've got 1 notch of flaps. And actually, I don't even know what the Cessna landing is. I'm assuming 1 or 2 notches of flaps. But at this point, full mixture, full prop. At least that's how it is for the DA40. Get your fuel pump on. Where's the fuel pump in this bad boy? Taxi. Turn on all our lights. 0.3. Okay, what's our next thing that we're going to be doing? Let's hurry and get that. 6,003. We are going to, looks like we're not going to be able to do LPV or LNAV VNAV, so we're doing LNAV MDA. We're going down to 5,040. So let's check that out. And actually, it caught the glide slope. So now we are on glide slope. It does say en route still, though. technically, if I was flying in real life, I would be going to the MDA. I would not be following this because it does not say LPV here. But I feel like this is a bug. Ooh, slow us down. I am actually going to bring us into vertical speed. 600 feet. And we're going down to 5,040. So let's get our altitude down to 5,000, I would say 100. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take off autopilot. We're going to 5,040. And then we're going to fly to 1.6 nautical miles from PVU all the way to runway 13. Once we hit runway 13, then we will do a missed approach. But at 1.6 nautical miles, we can do a visual descent from there. So let me show you what that looks like here. Taking the autopilot off. I am now in charge of the aircraft. 5,000, what was it again? 5,040, yeah. Oh, my bad. Resume. And we're making sure to keep straight with this. So usually it would be so far down here that you can't see the runway. It would be cloudy outside or something. So we're going to do that. Makes it nice here, you can see it still. But we're going to pretend that we can't see outside the cockpit. 5,100. Put in. So you don't want to go below 5,040. That's your MDA, minimum descent altitude. And right here, 1.6, that's our VDP. So we could, if we saw outside, transition to visual. So we could be using the PAPIs there. But we're going to pretend we don't see outside. It's still too cloudy or foggy. Getting down to 5,040. Once we're at 0, we're going to do the missed approach. Actually, not too sure I know how to do missed approach on here, so this will be fun. Usually it pops up somewhere down here. Here we are, still set. 5,040, 0.5. Still too cloudy, we can't see the runway. Even if I saw the runway right now, there isn't enough runway to land. We'd be too high. So here we are, 0.2, 0. We are going missed. And where's our missed approach button? Maybe it's on here. Huh. I am not seeing it. I do know, according to our plate, that we're going up to 9,000. As you can see right here, going to 9,000 up to Honshu. So that's just what I'm going to be aiming for right now while we try to figure out where is the missed approach. I'm gonna have to Google that on here. Usually it pops up right here. You can hit the missed approach. Sometimes it is on, it's a button somewhere else. Sometimes it's on here. Disconnect. Not seeing a missed approach button anywhere though. If you know where it is, let me know. Oh, we're kind of getting off course. Make sure we keep on following that up to 9,000. Maybe it's in the procedures. Nah. Well, that's unfortunate. PDF, DME, PDR. So instead, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to follow the track that it gives us, the 206. I don't know. In this instance, I'd be asking ATC for help. But hopefully you wouldn't go out not knowing where the missed approach button was. They could give you vectors to your points, or they could give you vectors directly to Fairfield. Let's go ahead and pretend that. Because otherwise, we're just going to be following something that's not actually on here. All right. I'm going to go flight director, heading mode. All right. So we're saying that ATC is giving us vectors out to Fairfield. They said go 280 up to 9,000. So here we are at 280, climbing to 9,000. So what should have happened is when you hit the missed approach point, go out to Hunsu, out to Sano, and then out to Medkey, and then into Fairfield. But instead, we're gonna have vectors going straight to Fairfield. Gonna say that ATC gave us that. And we'll be moving on to the VOR DME, which is this one. All right, so once we get to Fairfield, we're gonna go outbound on the 313 radial until we hit 4 DME. Then we're gonna do an arc on the PVU, and it's gonna be a 14 DME arc at 8,500 until we hit the 134 radial. And then we will go inbound from there. And actually, it's not the 134 radial, I'm sorry. It's the 314 radial, but we're going inbound 134. Okay, so to get prepped for that, we are going to come back over the flight simulator, and we'll see how well it sets up for this procedure. Let me get close for you guys to see. Approach. And we are not going to do this one. We are going to change from Rnav to... Oh, it was right there. VOR DME 13. Enter. Transition from Fairfield. And let's go ahead and just activate it. Not popping up here yet. What the? Oh, flight simulator. This is not how it's supposed to go. What the heck are you thinking, man? What even is this? How would you do an arc like that? Off of what? There's no... Oh my goodness. Okay. We're going to be going by VOR, so this should be okay. I'm going to ignore what's here. But let's see if it did put in the correct navs for us. So we do need Fairfield and Provo, which we actually already have put in there. I'll show you why we need those. On the plates here, you can see that we're using Fairfield 116.6 and Provo 108.4. And you can see we're going 313 outbound from Fairfield until we hit 4 DME from Fairfield. At that point, we're switching over to Provo, PVU, which is, at that point, will be 14 DME from Provo. And we're going to follow that arc, staying at 14 DME until we hit the 134 radial. I know that might be a lot of information, but just watch as I do it, and it might make a little bit more sense while you're watching it. If you have questions, too, let me know. Happy to answer. Okay, so the magenta means we're following the GPS, this wonky path here. Hell no, we're not doing that. So let's go ahead and change over. We need to be on the Fairfield VOR, which is Nav 1. GPS mode. Let's change over to heading mode. Make sure that we're on a good heading. This is our heading, 280. That's good enough. Boom, heading mode. And now, let's transition to Nav 1. Nav 1, VOR 1, there we are. I'm gonna click this button in. It's gonna take us direct to Fairfield. So now we can hit the nav button, and it's gonna follow this. Actually, I'm gonna click it again. It doesn't matter which radial. Just any of them. Okay, we are now flying inbound. And I'm not going to use the autopilot for this one, so this one will be a little bit more fun. At least for me. Oh, I'm sorry guys. You missed all that. That's one thing about transitioning from plates. Sometimes I forget. So we are on Nav 1, which is 116.6, going inbound to Fairfield. See the arrows there, going to Fairfield. From there, we are going on the 313 radial. So we'll be ready to hit the 313 radial as soon as we have that flag flip. So here's this flag. As soon as it flips to the opposite side, then we will turn this course to 313, not 306. And we do have PVU and Fairfield set up. And you can see how it has this double lines. Let me zoom in real close here. This double lines means that is the direction directly to Provo. And see there's another blue one behind this green line. That's the one directly to Fairfield. So since we're going direct to Fairfield, of course, it's covered up by the green line that's bringing us in. The green line is the one that we're tracking. But for the DME arc, once we hit 14 DME, we want this arrow to be at the 90-degree angle, and we want it to stay there. That will give us the arc that you see right here. It looks kind of like a line, but it's really a bit of an arc if you look closely. And we're going to want to be at 8,500 for that. Okay, let's zoom back out here. Try to keep it right about here. So in instrument flying, we're pretending we can't see outside. Okay, how far are we? 2 nautical miles out. We're really close. We'll go ahead and take off autopilot now. And we are watching for that flag flip. 1.1, 1 mile out. We're going to change over to 313, which is going to be a left-hand turn. We're at 306 currently. Here it comes. There we go, flag flip. Oh, wrong way. So it's actually a right-hand turn. Oh, doing bad, guys. Want to stay at 9,000. There we go. We're gonna wait till we're at 4 DME. Then we're gonna make a right-hand turn, 14 DME from Provo. Either one of those. This flight director is just kind of in the way. I want the yellow. Really quick, change over the plates. At that, we're gonna go down to 8,500. And we need a radial of 134 inbound. Not a radial, but a bearing. All right, we're still at 9,000. 2.7, we need to be at 4 DME. We're going about 120. So 0.6 beforehand, we will turn. So that's gonna be 3.4 is when we start turning. Gonna line this up with that. 3.4, let's start turning. I want to hit this right here. Line this up with this. Try not to climb. $13.8. So if we have it go down some, then the number will increase. If we have the arrow go up some, then the number will decrease. So let's keep it right about there until we get to 14. And we need to get down to 8,500. So let's change our altitude, 8,500, and start descending. Slow us down, going kind of fast. $13.9. Turn outbound a little bit more. Get that 14. And we're going to change over to Provo now. We're on Fairfield. Let's go over to VOR 2. And we need a 134 radial. So, oh. Oh, too far. Trying to do too many things at once. There we go, 134. Keep this at the 14, going down to 8,500. So once this starts coming in, we'll just turn more dramatically, or turn and intercept this line here. And there's the 8,500, so we need to slow our descent down. Oh, going a little drastically there. Kind of all over the place, but that's why I wanted to do this, is get a little bit more practice. Sheesh, it's touchy today. Probably not, it's probably me. So 3.8, 8,005. A little bit more outbound. I'm not trimmed correctly, that's why we keep on trying to go up. $13.9, keep it at 14 as best as we can. So that line is starting to come in. We can start turning now. Get the proper turn. I'm gonna line this triangle up with the green line for the intercept. And our next altitude is going to be 6,200. I'll show you in a minute, but since we're doing a little too many things at once, I'm just going to go ahead and change it to 6.2 and show you where it says it later. We can start descending to 6,002. Oh, there it is, coming inbound. Line the magenta diamond, which is behind this white triangle, up with the line until you meet it. We want to do about 500 feet per minute here. Seems like it's usually a good amount. All right. So let's go ahead and look at the plate real quick. We're descending down to 6,200. We're going to hit Sugi, which is going to be our final approach fix. And then we're going to go down to 5,040. 6,002, then 5,040. Here's Sugi here. 6.2 DME. And our missed approach is 1.7 DME. So at that point, we have to go missed approach. And as you can see, VDP is 2.6, visual descent. That's when you can start descending visually. All right, so here we are established on the 134 course, inbound, at about a 600 foot per minute descent rate. Oh, my bad, guys. DME 6.8. So we're actually pretty close to our fixed approach point, and we need to be at 6.2. So I'm gonna actually slow us down even more and get some flaps in. This isn't perfect, but it's giving you the general idea. Do you ever press the V key to see the chart? No, I don't. I am not familiar with that. I'm gonna have to experiment. Does it show us the actual chart? Huh. Okay, I'm gonna push the V button and see what happens. Oh yeah, so that is nice, but really all it's showing you is the PFD over here. So it's not as valuable. It doesn't have all the information that you need that a plate would have. It's not telling you your altitude and your minimum descent type things. All right, going a little under. We are now 6.5 out. 6.2 is our final approach fix. So we need to stay at 6,200. And stay on this here until we hit 6.2. I'll show you what it looks like on the plate. Here we are, 6.2. That's the DME from Provo. That's our final approach fix, which we can see right here. And then we'll descend to 5,040. We're actually pretty much set up for landing right now. We have the flaps down and everything. Usually you do that 1 mile before your fixed approach point. All right, 5.4. Oh, so we should actually start descending now to 5,040. So I'll do 5,100. We can start descending now. And let me show you one more time. Our missed approach point is going to be 1.7. So we want to be at 5,040, and at 1.7, then we will go missed approach. So once this says 1.7 and this says 5,040, so we need to descend. And of course, we're pretending that we can't see anything, but there it is there. Looks like we're kind of high. Slow us down a little bit and bring up this feet per minute. We try to do like 700 or something. Because we need to be at 5,040 and 1.7. That's when we will go missed. Yeah, we are definitely pretty high. You don't really want to be going 1,000 feet down per minute. That's rather drastic, but okay, we're a little bit off to the right. Or we're off to the left, the line is off to the right. 5,100. And we're gonna, once we hit 5,040, we're gonna stay till we're at 1.7, which that actually, almost as soon as we hit it, we'll be at 1.7. There's 1.7 and 5,040. We're gonna pretend we don't see the airport, so full throttle, and we're gonna start pitching up, getting out of here. Our missed approach procedures go straight forward to 9,000, so let's change to 9,000. Bring our flaps up. All right, so we want to be on radio 130. There's a flag flip. It's over there a little bit. Going outbound. So the reason it's so touchy right now is because we basically just passed it. It's only 0.4 nautical miles out. The closer you get, the more sensitive it is. And we're climbing at this at 130 until we're at 9,000, until we're at 5.9 DME out. I'll show you why I'm saying that. So here's our missed approach going up to 9,000 after PVU, radio 130 up to 5.9 DME, and then we're doing a heading of 330 to Fairfield. So we'll go Fairfield 110 after that. So here we are on 130, climbing up until we hit 5.9. So if you're going to do approach procedures, then you kind of do want another screen. I've got another screen set up right now that kind of shows everything. And being able to glance over at it is pretty imperative. Unless you've memorized the approach plate, which you definitely can. They're not too complicated, and if you do the same one over and over again, then after a while you'll remember it. But it's always smart to have on hand. There's Spanish Fork Airport right there. So the next one we're going to do is the ILS. And that one is a precision approach. So it'll bring us really close down. And from there, I'm gonna actually land the aircraft instead of going missed. There yet? Nope, 4.4. We'll go ahead and throw on autopilot. I love autopilot. we're going to do the nav. So it's on roll right now. Change it to nav. Now it's on VOR. And then we're going to do a flight level change. And we're going to set, we'll do 75. So nose down, oh, nose up, until it says 75. Boom. Autopilot. And there we go. It's going to follow the line and pitch for 75. Oh, 5.5. We are just a little bit out. 5.9 is where we need to be. So then we're going to go to the heading of 330. Oh, there it was right there. Heading. Boom. Start hitting that, and I'll keep turning it until it says 330. So it's currently following that blue bug on the wheel. Oh, sorry. I'll show you where that says. So this is the verbal. You climb to 9,000 direct PVU, VOR, DME, and PVU radial 130. So we were on 130 out to 5.9 DME. Once you hit 5.9, then it's a climbing right turn via heading 330. So that's why we changed our heading to 330. And then Fairfield VOR radial 110 to Fairfield. So here we are coming up to 330. You can see here's the heading 330. This is always your heading. This is always your course. Now we want to go over to Fairfield, which is 116.6, and it's on nav 1. So I'm going to change this over the CDI until it says VOR 1. And the radial it wants us to be on is 110. So let's change this over. This is the number we're looking at right here. Right there. Change that to 110. That doesn't seem right. I might have this incorrect. Let's see. Oh, it's the radial 110. So do the reciprocal of that. 290. Which is right. .290 right there. And let's change over to nav again. So 290 out there. So I'll try to explain what I was doing there. So we were on heading 330, and then Fairfield VOR radial 110. So whenever it says a radial, that means it's out from the Fairfield VOR. So if we were going to go away from the Fairfield VOR, we would be following 110. The opposite of that is 290, and that means that we're heading inbound towards it. So to and from radial and bearing can be pretty confusing at first. Well, heck, it can be confusing later too. But a bearing can be inbound or outbound, and a radial is always outbound. It's always facing away from the VOR. Okay, so we are on our way in now, hitting this 110 radial, and we'll be turning right. And we are at 9,000 feet already. Let's get the ILS plate set up. Here's the ILS. Runway 13. And it's a lot like the VOR DME, but a little bit different. What is the same is this portion right here, but once you get into this triangle area where you see the dots on the one side and the white on the other, that's the ILS, and that's going to give us vertical guidance. So until then, we're going to do the Fairfield 116.6 outbound to 4 DME for Fairfield. We're going to turn right and do a DME arc from Provo at 14 DME. So as you can see here, 4 DME from Fairfield or 14 DME from Provo. This point we will transfer from Fairfield to Provo. This is Fairfield right here. This is Provo. Once we get to this point, then we change over to the localizer, which is ILS, and that's 110.3. That'll give us vertical guidance as well as lateral. Vertical, up and down, lateral, left and right. Okay, so let's make sure that all of these things are in the system. Here we are here. I like to make it a habit to put it into the procedure. However, Flight Simulator was really sucky. I'm gonna do it just to see what it looks like. But we'll do procedure, we're gonna do an approach. Zoom in for you guys. Enter. We're gonna do the ILS 13. There we go. From Fairfield. We'll activate. Let's see what it looks like. Oh man, okay, yeah. That's stupid. I don't know why it always insists on going out this way and back in. The actual procedure is Fairfield, Jetley, and then the DME arc inbound. So we're just going to go straight there. And we're not going to use GPS. We're only going to be using VORs and the ILS. So we do have Fairfield already in here. We're actually using it right now. After that, we're going to use Provo. That is in there, and that's what we're going to use for the DME arc. After that, we're going to use the ILS, which is right here. It's the localizer 110.3. So we do not have that in our navigation. So I'm going to go ahead and change this one up here, because we're going to use Fairfield first, then Provo, and then we can swap it over to the ILS. So that was 110.3. All right, that is the ILS. So once we get to that point, we'll click this button, and it'll be on the ILS. Let me know if you guys have any questions, as always. I know it can be a lot, and I don't quite have my instrument rating yet, so if you see something that doesn't quite look right, let me know and I'll look into it. All right, we're 3.8 nautical miles out from Fairfield. Once we hit that, we're going to do a radio of 313. So we're at 290 right now. And if we hit the right, then it goes up. Hit the left, then it goes down. So we're going to be hitting that right button until we do 313 radial. And we're going to do that to 4 DME. show you real quick. Fairfield 313 radial and 4 DME. Then we'll do the DME arc like we did for the VOR DME, and that's PVU 14 DME. So at this point we will transition from Fairfield to Provo. All right, 1.8, we're getting close. We'll wait for that flag flip for this arrow to go to this side. It's coming up real soon. Point 8. Point 4. All right, here comes the flag flip. There it is. Let's change over to 313. And this is the number that we're looking at right there. That's how we know we changed it to 313. Oh, it changed to roll mode. We got to change it back over to nav. See, those are the things that can happen. That's why you always got to be on your toes. So now we're pretty far out. Autopilot isn't always the perfect answer. It can mess up. I don't know why it did that. It did. You just got to catch it and make sure to change. And then we want to be 4 DME out. And at that point, we'll be doing the Provo 14 DME arc. So when this says 4, this will say 14. We want this arrow right there. I can show you how you can do that by heading. You don't want to have it in VOR mode. So what we are going to do is change our heading. So if we're on 313, we want to be about 90 degrees from there. So let's change it over. We'll set it right about there. And so as soon as this says 3.4, we're going to hit the heading mode. And 3.4, heading mode. It's going to follow this heading. The altitude we want to be at now is 8,000 feet. So bring that down, vertical speed, nose down, about 500 feet. Bring our power back a bit. And this is what we want to be 90 degrees at 14 DME. We might turn out to be at 14.1 because it's not 90 degrees quite yet. Yep, there we go, 14.1. So let's bring the arrow up this way a bit to get it back down to 14. Okay, doing good. And actually, let's go ahead and change this over to 110.3 IPVU. You can know that it's an ILS if it has an I in front of it. I think it's an I. I know it's a 4-digit 4-letter identifier. I'm not sure if it's always I. I think it always is I. And you can see the glide slope is already registering. $14.1. Actually, let's go this way a little bit more because we're at 14.1. We want to be at 14. So let's bring this arrow up a bit. Here comes 8,000. It's going to intercept 8,000. And I'm going to hit approach mode so that the localizer and GPS activate once it gets close. So it'll automatically change from the heading mode to the localizer and glide slope once this cut starts coming in. We'll watch for that. Actually, it'll change to localizer first, then glide slope. So basically, once this line hits here, it'll change to localizer. Once this dot gets close to here, then it'll change to glide slope. At least that's what it should do. All right, we're at 14 DME, so I'll turn left a little bit to make sure that this is 90 degrees. Doing really good. Everything's running smoothly. Let's look at the plate real quick. So here we are. We're doing the 14 DME at 8,000. Once we hit the localizer, we'll do 6,300. Or once we hit the glide slope. So really, you just want to hit the glide slope here. That 6,300 is actually for if you were doing localizer, which is just lateral, left and right steering. But since we have the glide slope, that will bring us in on a descent without having to do step downs. Okay, 14.1, we need to turn in a bit. 14.2, let that get away from us for a little bit. Ah, didn't go into localizer mode. That's annoying. We're gonna manually do this. So we pass the glide slope. Not the glide slope, the localizer. So we need to go back out and grab it. The glide slope is still above us, so we'll stay at 8,000 until we hit that glide slope. Yeah, full deflection, that's not good. Just so you know. But the autopilot should have caught it. I know you don't count on the GPS, so I shouldn't be blaming it on it, but that is why I made the error. It's because I was counting on the GPS. Or the autopilot, I should say, not the GPS. Glide slope is right there as well. Getting pretty close. At half dot, you can put in 1 notch of flaps. And then at full, once it's right there, there we go. Now it's going to follow the localizer. Let's see if this goes over to glide slope once we hit 8. No. Approach. Alright, nav mode, localizer, approach mode, yes, there we go. Now it's following it. So when this is right here, it means we are on glide slope. And this follows the localizer. That makes sense. I don't know if I said that well, but let's go ahead and look at the plate. I'll show you where we are. So right now, we're out here somewhere. And basically, you don't have to do anything. It's going to be coming all the way in. Our final approach fix is 6,300. So it's right there. This little lightning bolt shows us where it is. And then after the final approach fix, since we are on the ILS, 4,697 is where we go missed. If we don't see it at 4,697, then we go missed and continue on our way. Now we can see it from way out here, so I'm just gonna leave it so that we can't see it until 4,697. All right, let me change back over. Let me know if you guys have any questions about that. The VDP and this one over here, the SIAC, is just if we had the localizer only, so we didn't have the glide slope, the vertical navigation. But since we do have the vertical navigation as well as the lateral navigation, we will be going down to 4,697. So let's go ahead and hit that altitude in here, because it's good to always have it in there. Oh, or 697 is close to 47. So let's look. Looks like we are on course. Kind of annoys me that we're running on the right hand, or we're on the left hand side of the localizer. I don't know why that's doing that. It's kind of annoying, but I'm gonna let it be. If we get close, I might just take over. And so quite literally, if it's foggy outside, you can go all the way down to 4,697. Well, so let's look at this plate. So the touchdown zone elevation is 4,497. So that's 200 feet above the ground. 4,697, 4,497. So the clouds could be all the way down to 300 feet and you'll be able to see it, or even 200 feet. By that time, you might be able to see the airport. And I'll show you how close that really is. It's pretty surprising how close you are once you get to that localizer, or the ILS decision altitude. Okay, let's change back over. And I'm going to do this manually from now on, just to get some practice. Might not be pretty, but hey. So I want my airplane to be on top of this green, and I want this dot to be right here. So I'm turning right a little bit, bringing that in. So that means we're above it. We need to point down some more. And this should be helping us actually, this purple line. Okay, right above it. I'm gonna turn that off too. We don't want to cheat. We're just gonna follow this and this. So you can see the white arrow is slightly to the left. That means we're gonna intercept. Looks like we're doing about 500 feet per minute is the average glide slope. It looks like it's going down a little bit, so I'll pitch down a bit more, catch up with it. Actually, we do need to reduce speed. We're operating our flaps outside of the zone. How dare me. Oh, jeez. Sometimes that trim just really gets away from you. I just barely touched it and it really went wonky.
500.
I'm not going to touch the trim again. Trim works fantastically in real life, but on these simulators it's super touchy. Okay, 4697, we're going to look up right at that point. We're letting the glide slope get away from us. And 47. Right about there, we'll look. Okay, we're going visual. We are high. Cutting the power some. We want 2 red, 2 white off to the right there. Two red, 2 white. There we go. 3 red, 1 white. Bit of a bounce there. Not the prettiest, but we made it. If I used brakes, I could have made that taxiway, but boy, I need to fix my rudder. I have to be drastically to the right, which maybe they're trying to do P factor, but there shouldn't be P factor when you're slowing down. That doesn't make sense. All right, we got to get over there behind that line to free up the runway. And there we go. That was our ILS landing there. Let me know if you guys have any questions. That's it for me. I'll probably be doing more of these. If you have a procedure you want me to go over in your local airport, or one that you like to fly out of in Microsoft Flight Simulator, let me know and I'll do it. That way you can fly with heavy clouds, something like that. I haven't actually messed around with the clouds. I do need to do that because it would be a lot cooler to have the clouds out and have this view and see just before we hit our decision altitude, the runway. Kind of see why instrument flying is so awesome. Anyways, thanks guys. Leave your comments. Let me know if you want to see anything, and I will see